Hello, everyone. Welcome to ISELF, St. Cloud State University's Integrated Science and Engineering Laboratory Facility. My name is Stephen and I work in the Dean's Office of our College of Science and Engineering, and I also have the privilege of working inside of this space. With me today is Kelsey Stacken. Kelsey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Stacken. I am the Student Relations Director for the College of Science and Engineering within the Dean's Office. I'm here to be a resource to all the students here with any of their questions about campus, about the College of Science and Engineering family, and just help them along their journey.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. So what we're going to do today is spend about 20 minutes or so exploring the ISELF facility. And before we do that, I want to talk just generally about the facility so that you can get a sense of the space that we're in here today. So ISELF is about 7 years old. It's coming up on its 7th birthday just in the next few days here. And it's a 100,000 square foot facility here on our campus. The construction cost on ISELF was about $45 million. And in addition to that, there's several millions of dollars worth of equipment within the space. Now, in just the first 5 years that ISELF was in existence, we've had more than 130 publications generated out of this space, about $8 million in external funding award. We've had 3 patents come out of this space, over 6,000 students served, and over 100 external collaborators inside of this space. And that is a real focus of the building is the idea of external collaboration. There's also a few core philosophies that we have within the building that are important not only in ISELF, but also more generally in the way that we approach our work in the College of Science and Engineering. The first of those is this is what is known as a student-centered facility. So every activity that we have in this space, every piece of equipment that we have in this space, every kind of experiment that we run, we place students at the center of that activity. And in most cases, we're talking about undergraduate students. And this is one of the things that really gives this facility distinction. It makes it unique, is that the experiences that we create inside of ISELF are experiences uncommon to an undergraduate student. They're typically experiences that you would only receive at the master's level or the PhD level. But in this building, in some cases, we're giving those experiences to students as early as their first year of study. In addition to that, this is an interdisciplinary facility. So as we move through this space, what you're going to notice is we're not going to talk a lot about biology spaces or chemistry spaces or engineering spaces. Instead, what we have inside of ISELF are a series of shared resources that faculty and students from any of our departments and programs can tap into. In some cases, faculty and students from other departments and programs outside of the college here at St. Cloud State are using these spaces. And in still other cases, people who are completely outside of our university are coming into these spaces and utilizing our equipment and our resources as well. The final philosophy is very much related to that. I've mentioned already a couple of times this idea of external collaboration. We use ISELF as a tool to attract companies and organizations to come work with us here at St. Cloud State University. And the number one reason we want to do that is because we know that those collaborations create real-world experiences for our students. This is one of the great value points of this facility is that it is a magnet for these external collaborations that bring our students experiences as undergraduates that we can get almost nowhere else in the country, and we're very much proud of that. So with that, we're going to get started with the tour, and we're going to begin just to my left here with our clean room facility. Now, in terms of distinction, this is another one of those spaces that really sets ISELF apart. It's fairly uncommon for a regional comprehensive university like St. Cloud State to have a clean room. To have a clean room that's on campus and undergraduate students get to work inside of is almost unheard of. And so this is a real point of pride again for us and for this facility. Our clean room space uses a series of filters both above the ceiling and below the floor to continuously scrub the air inside of this environment. So the name of the facility pretty much suggests what it is. When you step inside of the clean room, the air environment that you're operating inside of is much cleaner than an ordinary air environment. Inside of this space, we have what is known as a Class 1000 facility. So that means for every 1,000 particles that you would find in an ordinary air environment, we're removing 999 of them when you move inside of this space. The clean room is used primarily within ISELF for what's known as nanofabrication. And so we work primarily with our engineering students inside of this space, but also students from other majors who might be working with very small, very sensitive materials, where any of those particles inside of the air could provide some kind of contamination that might damage the work that they're doing. We also work very closely with two external collaborators inside of this space, Agnitron Incorporated and Semaphore Scientific. And those companies actually hire our students as interns to work right alongside them on the work that they're doing in areas like LiDAR or autonomous vehicles. And so the students get to participate in publications that have been generated out of this space and actually patents that have been generated out of the work that we're doing with companies like Agnitron and Semaphore inside of this facility. From the clean room, we're going to move down the hall in the lower level of ISELF to our optics and our advanced optics space. And Kelsey is going to talk to you a little bit about some of the work that we do in that area.
Hi, everyone. If you'd like to step into our optics room here, this is located in ISELF 21 in the basement. And this space is used for hands-on modular optics components. It has some lasers and sensors in a lab environment. It is currently being run by our physics department and is assisting students, undergraduate students, in student research that has led to more than a dozen publications. It also assists our senior design students in our engineering department with their projects for graduation in lab. Stephen?
Great, thanks, Kelsey. So from here, we're going to head up to the first floor of ISELF to our senior design lab. The senior design space is really important to students from our engineering program. Every engineering student within the College of Science and Engineering is required to complete a senior design project in their last 2 semesters of study. They self-select these projects. The projects also often take place in a team environment, and in some cases do have an external collaborator. There's a company or organization that's come to us with a particular problem, and they've collaborated with a senior design team of students to come up with a solution for that problem. Senior design projects happen in many spaces within the College of Science and Engineering's footprint here on St. Cloud State University's campus. The senior design space in ISELF is specifically focused on those projects that have an external collaborator. So in the time that this space has been open, we've had over 100 projects take place in this area with hundreds of students participating. And the students have worked on a wide variety of projects, everything from autonomous rovers to wind energy systems, to medical devices, to automated manufacturing systems, and beyond. Before we leave this space, I want to make reference to one other aspect to this lab because it's very much representative of what many of the lab spaces look like in ISELF. In ISELF, there's a concept of design flexibility that's incorporated throughout the building, and that's very important because the work inside of ISELF happens on a project-by-project basis. So we need very flexible spaces that can adapt to the projects that are happening within that space at any given time. And you can see a couple of simple examples of design flexibility inside of this photo of the senior design space. So you'll notice in the ceiling of the space, we have all of our services. Things like electricity, internet, lab gas are coming from panels on the ceiling versus outlets on the walls or on the floor. And the reason we have it set up this way is so that we can configure the lab benches, the cabinetry, the equipment in these spaces in any way that we need based on the project needs of any given time without having to worry about blocking some critical outlet or service. In addition, the cabinetry that you see before you is all on wheels. It's highly mobile so that we can move that around on a day-by-day basis depending on what our needs are at any given time. The lab benches have also been designed with the same idea of mobility so that it's very easy for us to adapt to the changing needs of the facility. From here, we're going to kick it back to Kelsey. Kelsey's going to talk to us about one of the classrooms that we have in ISELF, one of the few, in fact, ISELF 110.
Welcome to ISELF 110. ISELF 110 is our smart classroom within the ISELF building. It is a room that is capable of multimedia. It has recording, receiving, and does some transmitting. This class is vital in how we do our distance and in-person learning or our hybrid learning. It allows for us to connect with students who may just be video conferencing in, as well as lets them interact with their professors in real time. But it also allows us to record the classrooms so that students who are distance learning can view them later. What's very interesting about this room is if you look to the front, there are mats on the ground. This is part of our recording for this classroom. The professor can stand on these mats and the camera will follow him around the room, giving the perception that the students are, in fact, in the classroom even while they're distance learning. This is important considering our current COVID situation in helping us reach our students where they are at. At this time, we'd also like to show you our visualization lab. So, Stephen?
Thanks, Kelsey. Yeah, so now we're going to stay on the first floor of ISELF, but backtrack slightly to our visualization and simulation lab. This is a really important space inside of the ISELF building, one of our great success stories, and also the space that's responsible for the simulation of ISELF that we are presenting to you from today. The visualization and simulation lab has a rather simple mission that they approach in a wide variety of ways. They are trying to take concepts that are ordinarily difficult for people to comprehend and present them through some sort of a medium that allows those concepts to be more readily understood. The visualization and simulation lab will approach their work not by choosing a particular technology that they want to focus on, but rather working with whatever client they're working with at any given time to talk to them about the problems that they are facing and what particular needs would need to be met in that given problem. And then they go out and they find a technology to marry to that particular problem to come up with a solution. And so they will work with clients from both within the university. Virtually every department and program has worked with the visualization and simulation lab here at St. Cloud State, or again, those external partners outside of the university. And I do want to talk briefly about one example of that outside work that's really a shining example of what can come out of the visualization and simulation lab. So several years ago, we were approached by a local company here in St. Cloud called Geocom. Geocom is a nationwide leader in GIS services for emergency response. Chances are very good that if you place a 911 call somewhere in America, it's a piece of Geocom software that takes your call and affixes it to a location on a map that is then passed on to the emergency responders so they know where to come to meet whatever need that it is you have at any given time. Geocom wanted to take that piece of technology and move from a 2D environment where that information was placed on a two-dimensional map and move it into a three-dimensional environment. And there's some really important reasons for this. Many of the buildings that we have, both here on campus and obviously around the country, are multi-level, multi-room facilities. And if you can place an emergency response call in a 3D environment, you're then not only giving an address to the emergency responder, you're giving them a location, a specific room that they can go to, or a specific area within a large facility where the emergency is taking place. And this can trim minutes off of the response time, which in some cases can mean the difference between life and death. Now, when this project first started, when we first started building this 3D prototype for Geocom, we had a couple of sophomore students that were working on that prototype. One of those has gone on to be hired by the company and is now the product manager for that particular product. And the commercial product that's been developed from this work is being used to coordinate emergency services at large venues. So the US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, for example, uses this piece of software that's owned by Geocom, but was first developed in our visualization and simulation lab. And they've used that software to coordinate national, state, and local emergency response folks at events like the Super Bowl, the Final Four, and multiple X Games events. And so it's an amazing thing that our students had the opportunity to work on this particular project and see it grow into something that's being used in venues around the country now. Okay, so from the visualization and simulation space, we are going to take and turn our attention to a couple of photos that are immediately outside of the 360-degree photo that we were just inside. And I'm drawing your attention to these because this is another space within our facility down in the basement area that's used extensively by our visualization and simulation group. This is our Viz Box, which is an immersive VR experience. What you're looking at is a VR system that's set up for a single user. It's a 4-screen setup. So we have 3 screens that form walls within the Viz Box, and then 1 screen, which is actually the floor. All of these screens are projecting in 3D, and they're creating one seamless image for the user to see through the VR goggles that they're using. In addition, those goggles are tracking the user's movement throughout space. So they feel like they are actually inside of whatever image it is that they're looking at. But in addition to that, they can move around within that image, and the image will adjust with them to create that immersive experience. Now, we use this extensively for outreach programs, but we also use it as an educational tool for our students. And it's a great example of how College of Science and Engineering students can help their peers and their colleagues, because we will often have a team of, for example, software engineering students that are building an application for the Viz Box that will then be used by an entirely different group of majors. Perhaps our meteorology students are coming into this space to learn more about weather events in a more immersive experience than learning about it through a smartboard or an ordinary classroom environment. So from here, I'm going to turn it back to Kelsey. And Kelsey's going to talk to us a little bit about another important space that we have in ISELF, our Tutoring Center.
Hey everyone, you want to just take a look at the picture right here on my right. So earlier I mentioned that one of my duties is to help students find resources. Our Tutoring Center is one of our greatest successes and one of our greatest resources. We actually had to expand it within the first 5 years because it was meeting over 3,700 students an academic semester. So it is interdisciplinary. Our tutoring centers are on our 2nd and 3rd floor, and it meets the needs of not only of all of our majors, but all students on campus. So you might find students doing math and chemistry and physics, maybe being taught by one of our learning assistants who is an undergraduate student, or maybe they're doing more than one subject. It is truly one of our greatest successes. Our professors do some of their office hours in there, and it's a wonderful resource we have here on campus. Another wonderful resource we have for our students is our integrated science lab, which I will turn over to Stephen for that.
Great. Thanks again, Kelsey. So we are actually going to look at 3 different 360-degree photographs for ISELF 320, our integrated research lab, because that's really the breadth of work that goes on in this space. This space takes up almost the entire 3rd floor of our building. This first space that you're stepping inside of is a portion that comprises probably about 30 or 40% of the total space of the integrated research lab, and is shared by faculty from our biology and chemistry programs. And it's a really great example of how undergraduate research is a really important tool that we use within the College of Science and Engineering in terms of educating our students. Students work right alongside our faculty on the research that's happening inside of this space. And in this case, the biology and chemistry faculty are doing some fundamental research to look at various types of diseases, things like Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's. And they're doing this research to get us further along to new treatments for these diseases, or potentially even down the road to some cures. Now, the thing that makes undergraduate research unique here at St. Cloud State University and in the College of Science and Engineering is the level of engagement that our undergraduate students have. They're working side by side with our faculty, and in many cases, co-authoring publications or having the opportunity to make presentations on the research that comes out of these labs in a manner that, again, is only typical normally to a master's student or a PhD student. We have had students give presentations on their research in spaces like these as far away as Japan, and certainly throughout the nation and throughout the region on the work that they're doing. And so if a student has a real passion for a career in research, starting out at an institution like St. Cloud State University, like the College of Science and Engineering, is a really wonderful starting point, because you're going to be able to put some hands-on experience, in-depth experience in the area of research on your resume as you're applying for those graduate programs that are going to take you further along in your career. Okay, so from this space, we're going to get a closer look at one faculty member's research area, and that is just right up here to my right. And this is over on the other side of the integrated research lab from where we were just a moment ago. And the space we're going to be looking at next belongs to Dr. Satomi Kono, who's a wildlife biologist that we have here at St. Cloud State University. And he is an expert in the area of alligator anatomy and biology. And specifically, his research looks at the way that changing environmental factors are actually changing the physiology of alligators. It's changing the way they reproduce. It's changing the way that their body functions in some really fundamental ways. And so students will come into this space and work right alongside Dr. Kono on that research. And again, have that opportunity to be part of the publications that are generated by his research, part of the presentations that are made about the discoveries that are made over the course of that work. From here, we're going to take a look at one last space in ISELF 320. And this moves us more from the natural sciences back over to engineering. And it's our embedded systems lab. Now, this is a space that's run by Dr. Yi Zhang, a faculty member we have in our electrical and computer engineering department. And Dr. Zhang has some really important partnerships with two companies in particular, Emerson Process Management and Born-Fuchs Medical Devices. And those two companies actually fund this embedded systems lab at a rate of about $70,000 a year. And what they're doing with that funding is hiring students. So in a given semester, we'll have 12 to 18 students working within the embedded systems lab. And they'll actually be doing prototyping on the behalf of these two companies. They'll be designing new embedded systems and testing those to see if they could potentially be used in products developed by Emerson Process and by Born-Fuchs. This is really tangible hands-on experience that's very much akin to an internship, except it's happening right here on campus. And this is a great advantage for our students, because if they have an hour between classes, for example, they can come up to the embedded systems lab and they can get some of this prototyping work done and actually get paid for the work that they're doing along the way. In addition to that, this is an amazing opportunity in terms of career development. Every student that's come out of the embedded systems lab has had a job offer in hand before they graduated, starting at a salary no less than $80,000 per year. So for the students that get an opportunity to work alongside Dr. Zhang, they're not only getting a first-class experience in engineering and a very specific field within engineering, but they're also getting that opportunity to network with individuals within the field that they'll be entering after graduation, and even setting themselves up for those first opportunities after college. Okay, so from the embedded systems lab, we're going to head all the way up to the top of our model here. And Kelsey's going to talk to us a little bit about the ways that the College of Science and Engineering builds community amongst our students and faculty and staff.
Yeah. Hi, thank you, Stephen. Here at the College of Science and Engineering, we all don't want to just prepare you academically for your career. We also want to prepare you community-wise. So if you look at a couple of pictures right on my right, some students doing an event called our Huskies Invent. We offer this each fall and spring semester. And what this event is it allows us to work with external partners who may be facing some a factory issue or some problem within their business that they think that our students can help with. This allows students a chance to not only work on real life problems and groups, but they also get to present their solutions over the week on the Sunday to the company. This has been a tremendously successful event. We've received a lot of students who've received internships because of it, and it's just a wonderful opportunity for our students. Another event we have is, if you look right down there, is called Science Rocks. It's an opportunity for us to invite our future Huskies to the college and see what kind of technology our students are getting a chance to work on and do some fun activities with them as well. It's a great engagement activity, and those kids really like it as well. So if you'd like to come up here a little bit, you'll see a couple more of our events on how we're building community. The screen right here is our winners from our spring event, in which we got everyone from the college together, and they did a series of Olympic challenges. Students played ping pong, they did some bowling, pool, all to put into points for the winning team. So that is our computer science students, who are our reigning champs right now. And that's just some of the ways. We also work with our external partners of Park Industry, if you look right to your left, in which we held a virtual 4-H event for students, not only in the community in the state of Minnesota, but for an external company as well. So lots of great community engagement activities available for students. We like to have fun, and we like to provide new opportunities to learn and grow and prepare you for your career.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Kelsey. And thank you for joining us today. That gives you a sense of some of the activity that we have going on here in the ISELF facility. This is just a portion of the activity that we have going on inside of this facility. We could honestly talk for hours about all of the amazing projects that have come out of this area over the last 7 years. And I also want to mention, it's important to know that this is just one tool that we have within our toolbox here in the College of Science and Engineering. We have a whole series of facilities that surround ISELF, where a lot of the teaching and the instruction within the College of Science and Engineering takes place on a day-to-day basis. So this is just one small piece of our overall footprint. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about the College of Science and Engineering, feel free to reach out to the Dean's Office through the COSI webpage at any time. We'll be more than happy to connect you with the right person to get you started on building a relationship with us, whatever that may be. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.